Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Medium's Porch. I am your host, Kathleen Boldt, and this is LILYDALE Radio that you're connecting with. And that radio program is a series of visuals and audio programmings that we put together as mediums and members of the LILYDALE Assembly. And you can find out more about what is going to be coming up in the programming and the people doing it at the Facebook page. And the LILYDALE Facebook page address is facebook.com/LILYDALE Assembly Inc. And if you're interested in learning more about LILYDALE and their courses, find out what LILYDALE is all about, do check out www.lilydaleassembly.org. So without further ado, we are going to turn to our program today, the Medium's Porch, where I interview mediums from around the globe to talk about the privilege, the process, and the power of spiritual communication. So welcome, and I want to introduce you today to our guest. Our guest is a medium, a psychic, a life coach, a Reiki master, numerologist. She is a mom and wife, and our guest today offers dedicated services to people who want to become empowered, who want to know through enlightened direction how they can become the ruler of their own life. And I'd like to introduce you today to Donya Lyons Mealy. Hi, Donya.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome, Donya. I'm so glad to have you here. Donya and I met years ago doing this work, and she is still busy doing it. She's busy with her family, and I am so delighted to have you here, Donya. To tell others a little more about you, I'll just continue on here to talk about you as being a beautiful soul from Northwestern Pennsylvania. And Donya has her bachelor's degree in psychology. She has a master's degree in social work from the University of Pittsburgh. Donya has been interested in spirits and divination beginning back in 1991 with her first visit to LILYDALE. And she has had since then formal training with Fellowships of the Spirit, Healing and Prophecy, as well as she has studied under many renowned mediums who have taught at LILYDALE. She has been working for more than a decade with others doing this work. She has also pursued certification with Doreen Virtue in mediumship, Reiki certification, angel certification. She's a numerologist, a life coach, an NLP practitioner, and of course, one of the most important roles she plays is being a mom. So again, welcome, Donya.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
Donya. Yes. So you have been doing this for quite some time. What is it that calls you back to doing your mediumship, your psychic readings, and your support with the wellness trainings that you have?
You know, what always calls me back is wanting other people to heal, wanting other people to thrive. And it's interesting because I feel no matter what, this is the path that Spirit has put me on, even from the very beginning, where when I was in elementary school, I was always the one helping the other kids, helping them if they were homesick or fell down on the playground. In high school, I was always the one who would guide my friends, oh, do this, don't do that. And it's one of those things that it comes very natural to me. So I do believe that Spirit has guided me to, help other people to find their power, to find their heart coherence.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I know I actually have come to you for a reading because sometimes we can't read for ourselves, right?
That's right.
So I find just as a reflection and as a testimonial myself, when I sit with you, that really shows up, that desire to be supportive, that desire to be helpful. You have a compassionate vibration about you and an energy about you that when I've sat with you and when I've watched you work with the others as we've worked alongside each other over the years, I've seen you bring solace. I've seen people's face light up and also settle down as well, calm down, stress leaving them. It's very beautiful. I know we mentioned that we were going to share with people a gift you offer. So let's just do that right at the beginning. On your website, people that are under a lot of stress, because I know you're going to be watching this video as replay throughout the year, but it has just passed through the Christmas season. There's a lot of stress that people are still bearing on their shoulders. What is your offering that you can tell us about?
So I am offering a meditation to help remove or to release the blocks that are causing the stress. Oftentimes we have things that we carry with us, emotional stress, emotional traumas, even just a bad hair day, so to say. And these are things that prevent us from moving forward on our path, prevent us from focusing. So this beautiful meditation helps us to not only relax, but also to clear our energy, to see what the dense energy, the blockages are, and to identify them and then to release them, so that then we do have that clear energy through us and around us, so that we are able to move forward on our path.
I love it. I love it. So we can find that on your website, right? We go to your website.
Yeah.
Can you give us your website now so that anyone listening now could write that down for themselves?
Oh, sure. It is charger174.webs.com, I believe.
Okay, so I'm going to put it in the links below for everybody, so they'll be able to
Perfect.
check that out as they're watching. Beautiful. So that's lovely. Because now talk a little bit more, if you would, about the power of meditation and how that serves you as a medium.
I believe that meditation is the root of everything that I do. Meditation, I have a philosophy that if we need to be grounded, we need to be centered, and we need to be connected. And oftentimes that means grounded through meditation, grounded in our heart center. That means connected to the love within us and around us, as well as connected to spirit, to source. And meditation is when we just yeah, and you can see me doing it right now. We release the world around us. We release the stress, and that is when we plug back into spirit. We plug back into our source, our love. And meditation, it's so interesting because when people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm off my path. What do I do?" My first question to them is, "What is your meditation practice?" And oftentimes that is the basic thing that we all need to go back to just to reconnect.
And so for those people that are learning about meditation, I know a lot of them tend to say, well, I can't sit still or I
Mhm.
can't turn my mind off. Do you have something you share with them to address that concern they have?
Yes, definitely. Meditation is not just sitting crisscross applesauce on our meditation pillow. Meditation is walking. I know people who run and that's their meditation. Meditation is when we are doing something that brings us back to the present moment. It brings us back to us. Now, some people can meditate watching TV. I cannot, because what it is it helps us to unwind. But meditation, again, it's not the, oh, for some people that is what works, but meditation really is what works best for your personality. So there are meditations that we can visualize. So oftentimes if people can't sit still but they do a visual meditation, meaning that they picture themselves in a field, by a beach, walking on a street, that is enough to keep their attention. Other people do have to do it while they walk, and I've had some times in my life where I have not been able to sit still to meditate, and I've had to walk. And let me tell you, I count my steps. So those are days that I definitely reach that 10,000 step mark. So yes, meditation is not just one size fits all. It is varied, and anything that you do that brings you back to your center can be considered meditation.
I love that you used that word earlier, heart coherence. The
Yes.
word coherence really suggests that state that we get into when we meditate, does it
Mhm.
not? Yeah.
Yes.
And so when you talk about heart coherence, when you're doing your meditation, do you do any focus directly on the heart, or is that just something that is an outcome of the process that you've experienced?
To be honest, it's both. When I meditate, to be honest, like going through the process, a lot of it is breathing. My first thing is I will breathe in, and I always exhale longer than I inhale. Now that helps to affect the vagus nerve. It helps us to come into more of that coherence, and then that is when I start to feel the energy around me. Now again, that's something that some people can feel, some people can't, but that's what I do. And I focus on breathing in that light, that energy into my heart center. So this is something that as that light enters my heart area, I feel it moving throughout my entire body, clearing that out. So sometimes people will call that breathing heart coherence breathing or heart lock-in. That is a term that is used by the Heart Institute. So that is something that I do quite regularly.
Are you speaking of the Heart Math Institute?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Yeah, beautiful place. They do a lot of studies and scientific
Mhm.
surveys of people and the heart and the energy around that, not just
Yeah.
the chemistry of it, but the energy of it, which I think is
Yeah.
really great. And totally anyone, I'll put that link on the bottom as well, because that's very, very interesting studies
Mhm.
I believe Greg Braden, is he still working with them?
He does, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So well worth a look for those that haven't encountered that yet. So beautiful. So you work with that. You work with that concept of connecting with the heart. I know we often use the word compassion, but essentially, would you say compassion, compassionate mediumship, compassionate social work, right? In your case.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And, there's nothing, I would say from my experience, there's nothing that aligns with that experience of getting into that zone. We talk about getting into the zone. That's ideal for the walkers and the runners and this type of thing.
Yeah.
But you can deepen that as you go. And the more you practice it, the more regular you are with it, the brain becomes conditioned to receive that information more quickly and to get into that state more rapidly. Because it certainly is an altered state, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, definitely. And
Right.
then we get into the brain waves, alpha and beta and those kinds of things too. So yes, that is definitely an altered state.
Yeah, and they're doing so many more studies on that these days, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly with mediums as well, and finding more and more people are naturally mediums. I know a lot
Yes.
of the mediums for years now have said, we are all mediums to some degree. If our family loves us, they're going to come and find a way to connect with us.
Yeah.
And even if we don't pick it up, we're not able to perceive it through our senses that we know, there's an inner sense that we're capable of achieving. So that brings me to your life and how you came to this work. I know it says, what was it, several years ago, 1991 or something, I think was the date. Did I remember
Yes.
that
Yeah.
from your bio? Yeah, yeah. So it's been some time that you've been interested and invested in this field of understanding your spiritual sense and your connectivity with the universe, and then helping others with it. So, as I think of this, you had said in your website that you made a decision, and that really jumped out at me because I believe, as a practitioner myself or as a medium myself, that making the decision, the commitment, right, is key in moving forward on the path. To be waffly about it is not going to get you there. That
Right.
sense of intention and focus. Tell me a little bit more about how that, is there a story around that for you that really honed in on that decision for you?
So yeah, so it's so funny. 1991 is just a few years ago, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, and it's really funny because my parents actually took me to Lilydale for the very first time, and that was where I was at one of the outdoor services and I saw a beautiful woman. She was crying. She was somebody who the medium had chosen. And I remember to stand out of the crowd, she literally stood up. And it was one of those outdoor gatherings where there was standing room only. There was a big group. And I remember watching her, and as the medium brought through her departed husband, the stress, the tears, the pain on this woman's face, the pain disappeared because then she knew that there was continuity of life. She knew that her husband, even though physically he was not here, spiritually he still was. He was still here in spirit. He was still walking with her. He still knew what was going on. She was still sharing her life with him. And it was at that point I decided, that's what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but that is what I want to do. And of course, we fast forward because, oh boy, I was kind of young back in 91. Much younger than I am now. But anyways, fast forward, life happens, college happens, I always had that interest that was always in the back of my mind. I just didn't know how to get there. So going through school, psychology, my bachelor's, going through my master's, finally, when I graduated with my master's, I, at that point, felt I had the time, I had the ability, I had the life experiences that now was the time to make that decision to start pursuing. And that was when it really did click. I went to Lilydale. I took multiple classes there to fortify my skills, to learn what I was doing, to build it up. And that is something that right then and there was the decision. And I believe, boy, I think that was back in 2006, to be honest. But that was when I decided, no matter what, this is what I want to do with my life, whether that's in the social work capacity of helping through empathy and compassion, or if that is, takes me on the road of mediumship, and that's what I do. And that is something that, yeah, that right there was the decision.
Nice. And I understand fellowships myself, having gone through it myself through their
Mhm.
training, that it is very oriented to being making these abilities accessible for application in the world in a way
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily have to make you or turn you into a medium, but to actually give you the opportunity to just cultivate that part of yourself
Yeah.
and integrate it into your world. So those of you that are listening that may want to access how to do this and how to cultivate that intuition and that communication with spirit in any form, this is certainly something you can do. And Donya is proof of that, that this is something that can be cultivated. And it's about your commitment, your exploration, and your decision to do so. Now, Donya, you came to this as a decision, but you have children, two beautiful children, and
Thank you.
they are highly intuitive and quite gifted. I know you set an environment for them so that they can
Mhm.
cultivate that. Tell us a little more about some of those experiences for the moms that are listening in here.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I have 2 daughters, and boy, oh boy. So let me take you back to the very beginning, when Hattie, who's my oldest, she was, oh goodness, 3, about 3 years old. She would see angels. I taught her how to use Reiki to heal plants. We had we had a plant given to us, and it looked like it was not going to make it. So I taught her, Reiki is a big word for grown-ups. For my little 3-year old at that time, I taught her love, and I showed her that it's in the heart and what we feel and how we can love that plant. And I'll tell you, the innocence of a small child, they are so powerful. Not to abuse that power, but they are just that plant. I don't think I could have made it grow that fast, I'll tell you. And then her sister came along a couple years later. And the interesting part about my younger daughter, Tesla, I was pregnant with her when I was teaching Reiki and doing Reiki attunements. And it was very interesting because I remember at one point apologizing when I was doing an attunement to a class. I'm like, I'm so sorry if I bump you with my belly. It's just that my daughter wants to help too. And so at this point, having both of them, they are healers. They both Hattie and Tesla. They are the compassionate ones. They if they have a friend who's not feeling well, not feeling emotionally well, they are the ones to go put their hands on that person. And I've had both of my girls come home and tell me, "Mommy, at recess, I gave so and so Reiki today. I gave so and so love today." So it is good. So as a mom, sometimes it is a little bit difficult because they know what I'm thinking before I know what I'm thinking. Um, when we are on break right now because of the holidays, so it is kind of fun to kind of, I call it, playing, but we're working on our telekinesis. We're working on also our telepathy. So not only trying to move things or influence the material world, but we also are working on our telepathy too. Like what am I thinking? What color am I envisioning? So it is really fun. There are some cons to it as well, because my girls are very sensitive, so they do pick up on a lot of other people's stuff. And it's hard because, again, we're in the world, so we have some people who are not very nice. We have bullies, we have that, and we have the victims of that. So there's been a bit of a bit of a lesson for all of us with that, with my daughters, teaching them to breathe out what is not theirs, because they will come home with emotions and feelings and energy that's not theirs. And I have to teach them to exhale that out. And a great technique for that, especially, as an adult, I do this too. When I feel icky and I'm like, that's not my energy, close my eyes, breathe in, deep breath, exhale out, say, this is not mine. And I literally will move my hands like this and just and blow it out, because I have to release that energy. And I've taught them how to do that as well. Um, yeah, so that is always fun. I also like to do, this is one last little exercise that we do that's kind of fun. This drives my husband crazy, but when we are driving, if we get lost, now I'm very good with maps, but sometimes, I'd like to take the scenic route. I will stop and pull over alongside the road and say, okay, girls, where do we go from here? And they'll sit and they'll feel. I love how they do this. They get grounded, they get centered, they get connected through breath, through that small meditation, being in the heart center. and they'll say, Mom, up here, we need to go to the left. Mom, up here, we need to go to the right. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, we'll just follow where you want us to go. And we will end up where we're supposed to be. Might be the real scenic route, but it is something, and again, I mean, this is kind of messing around. It does drive my husband crazy, but it's teaching them that no matter where you are in the world, you can always find your way by listening to your heart, because your heart is connected to spirit, and spirit will always put you where you're supposed to be.
That's beautiful. I mean, obviously you're giving them a chance to empower themselves and trust their assessments of circumstances, which is super cool, obviously, because they're trusting their inner guidance, and they're also trusting the environmental circumstances. So that's beautiful. So it's very empowering. And you know, that makes them similar and yet no different to the rest of us, because we have to set our boundaries, right? We have to have those boundaries and protect our sensitivity. So what are some of the things, I mean, you've given some ideas here. What are some of the things you do? Because being a mom, not only are you sensitive, you do this work, you have other stuff that you're doing, you have a partner, and then you're a husband, and then you have children. So as a mom that is a medium, how do you set your boundaries? How do you get what you need out of this environment that you've set yourself up for?
Oh, I laugh. Well, you know, unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in a day. No, so to be honest, I mean, time frame wise, I'm always the first one up, first one awake during the morning, because that's the best. I have about 30 minutes that I can squeeze in a meditation, squeeze in a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretch, whatever I need there. The interesting part that I've learned, and this is something for other people, that 5 minutes in the car, this might sound crazy, but I've really utilized this a lot. If I'm waiting for my daughters after practice, or if I am transitioning from work, getting in my car to go to an appointment, there's always space. There's always time. Spirit always gives us at least 3 minutes. And that is where I will catch my reconnection. I will breathe in. And then that is also where I do my gratitude practice. So, and it might be multiple times a day, but that is where I usually get the most of my time. Half an hour in the morning, in between appointments, or in between, you know, transition of this activity to that activity. And it's interesting because 3 minutes, when I say 3 minutes, it doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're in that 3 minutes and spirit is really cleansing you, it's a long time. And then you just come out of it and you're like, all right, I can do this. So, and it's just so wonderful to know that again, you know, it just takes our connection, because spirit's always there, but we are the ones that get distracted with the flesh, right? With the things that are going on around us. So just 3 minutes to reconnect, and it's absolutely wonderful. Another trick that I do too is in the shower, not to be gross, but when I'm all done, I also clear my chakras. So, you know, we wash everything, but we also wash out our chakras. And I do that just, I'll call on my angels to help me clear my chakras. I start from the root chakra and I go all the way to the crown, clearing that out, clearing my aura. And then when that's all done, I turn the water off and I go into my meditation. So
I love that. Oh, sorry, I jumped because I was surprised by a little being that is in front of me here. I have plants in my house, so sorry for the distraction, but apparently a stink bug decided to land right in front of me. I think that's not the official term, but kind of scared me. It's like, okay, little being in front of us. So anybody watching this, go ahead and look up totem animal stink.
Yeah.
Because I just got one right in front of me. Yeah, they come in with my plants, I guess, or they land with my plants sometimes, or they call, I don't know. But anyway, so we didn't come to the podcast with stink bugs. Anyway, so what I was going to say was I love what you're saying about the 3 minutes, because when I studied yoga, practiced yoga, they talked about tiers of depth that you could go to based on timing. Now, when we say tiers of depth, it doesn't mean you're going to go you don't have to judge it as something that you have to do. You can sit for these pockets of time and have them as targets. And when you meet them, your rhythm will start to acquire a knowledge of how long that is. So like what you said, that 3 minutes is a long time for spirit to work. When you're starting meditation, those 3 minutes will feel like a long time, right? Just because you're not used to sitting that way. After a while, your whole rhythm, your whole body will know exactly what to do with those 3 minutes. right? It'll know you won't need your timer. You'll be in that space and it'll fly by because you moved into the awareness and the depth through the practice very, very quickly. And so you never have to think about it as how long you're sitting so much as just sit in that practice, sit in that power. And those 3 minutes or 20 minutes or 5 minutes, if you have to put your timer on because you have to be somewhere, fair, but you want to recognize that the time is not the important part about the meditation. Would you agree?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. And I love that you did this thing, which makes a wonderful tool for some people that are time crunched to think of it in these terms, that you do something you have to do, like a shower, and then you put something you want to do right beside it, and you anchor them, you pin them together so that it becomes not another thing you have to think of, but it becomes a part of your rhythm, part of your routine, if you like to use that word, part of the structure of your day. And it just becomes second nature. So you're not missing something. You're not saying, oh, I have to sit down later in the day and clear my chakras. You just include it as part of your daily life. And I think that's one thing you're bringing to us today, Donya, in not only your practice and studies and your use of this work, but being a mom, and then also the way you're speaking of taking care of yourself, helping us understand that this is a way of life. It is a mindset. It is an approach to living. It is a way of moving through life to make our lives more empowered, which is what you offer people in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yes.
So no more stink bugs here. All right. So, how is it for you when you sit down with a client? When you start to work, you talk about the power of meditation. I love how you're moving in the flow on a daily basis. Does that make it any better or different for you as you're sitting with your clients?
So I feel that, and again, I mean, if it makes it better, I mean, definitely meditation. We say, I'm all meditated up. It makes the connection a lot easier with a client. It is interesting too, because when I'm working with others, they come to me usually in a state of anxiety, a state of stress, a state of wanting or desire. So if I am already, in that flow of life, that flow of meditation, I am the oasis. I am the calm in the storm. And when they come to me, it's almost like they naturally just go, ah, because there's a piece to them where they realize she's not anxious, she's not crazy, she's not calling people crazy, but that tumultuous energy, they absorb that and say, I'm safe with her, I can release this. And I feel with that makes me somebody who, no matter what happens, what comes up, there's that calmness and there's that trust. And I feel that is something that definitely helps with being in the flow of things on that daily basis. And granted, my life goes a little crazy too sometimes, but it's also recognizing that being there for myself, being there for the clients, that's what my purpose is. That's life.
Yeah, beautiful. And so when you begin a reading, you use oracle cards very often.
Yeah.
Do you connect with spirit before you use the oracle cards? So let's talk about your tools for a bit. Do you connect with spirit first and then work, or do you read the cards and then allow spirit to come in? Just curious.
So it's very interesting. It really depends. With my readings, I always start off with I always call it the professional spiel, like this is what I do, this is what you do to with our clients. And no matter what, number one, I always open up with prayer. Prayer is that connection. It protects the reading, no matter what the messages are that come through, whether they come from the cards or they come from spirit. We want them to be for the highest and best. So we put that intention out there. We make sure that we're on the same page with that. And to be honest, I really let spirit guide me where spirit wants me to go. Sometimes that is with, we open up with cards, and sometimes that is, ooh, there's a message from your guides. There's a message from your angels. Or I'm feeling this in the physical body of you. What's going on? Stomach area, that kind of thing. So I wish I could say that, it's always step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, but we know that spirit doesn't work that way, because just like you are different than I am, everybody's reading is different. So, but the common thing though with readings is that those messages that come through, like I said, whether they're the cards, whether they're from our loved ones, whether they're that physical energy, that psychic energy, those messages are always about love. They're always about healing. And even if it's something that comes in that's like, oh, jeepers, that's not what I really wanted, there's always a resolution to that situation as well. So yeah, there's always that positive.
There's always a responsibility that comes with that. I know you and I did a lot of we did the college circuit for a while, right? Where we were giving messages to college students. And I remember them telling us, oh, this is for entertainment only. And yes, indeed, an entertainment component for some people. But what I found, and I think you've had these kinds of readings too, is that when someone came up to me, this one particular instance, somebody came up and I was working with cards and I put the cards down. And I do say my prayer internally at that point because we're not allowed to bring religion into that. So I would just say it internally. And the person across from me, I mean, we were supposed to anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes per person, depending on how long the line was, right? And whatever college was directing us. So this person, we only had a few minutes with them and less than 5. And this serious, very serious topic came up. And it was regarding suicide. And I remember feeling how crazy, like it just was totally unfathomable that people think of what we're doing as entertainment. Because here I was with only a few moments with this woman, and it was right there in front of me what was going on for her. We talked about it. She was getting help. Everything was going in a good way. But I got to tell you, as a reader, I felt very very out of sorts for a bit because so many of these people take it lightly, and then even some readers take it lightly that are doing these kind of circuits that we do, and you know, going around and just giving offerings of advice and stuff. I think there's a huge responsibility there, even in the smallest way of communication that we're given.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's responsibility. Another word would be ethics. They always say you don't leave a client unfinished. And I agree with what those college, boy, they were a trip, weren't they? But I also had a few in front of me who had some very serious issues. I do believe I had some suicide. I had a lot of college girls who found themselves in some certain situations that they had to make a decision about taking care of or not. And that's not, you don't just say, oh, sorry, time's up. You need to leave my table. So I do believe that this is something that, as much as it is, they put that label on there that it's for entertainment. As a reader, we do have the responsibility to see it through, and we really do have lives in our hands, so to say, because we do have people who come to us and they hang on our every word. And if we tell them to wear a yellow sweater, they're going to wear a yellow sweater. And that's why we have to put that disclaimer in there and say, even though this advice is coming through, or even though this message is coming through, you still have the responsibility to live your own life, because this is your path. And that is something that sometimes gets overlooked or possibly missed. So that's a very important thing.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to remember to refer out, right?
Definitely.
Social worker, a psychotherapist. So that's, how I support her. I said, let's look at your resources. Let's find some resources. Let's, we dialogued about that, and recognizing our limits as people, but also as mediums and psychics, and being responsible with those words as we come through. I love that you have your degree in social work, because that also helps those that are coming to you for more of a coaching situation, which I know you do coach. Some people, life coaching, so you do that as well. And you have all those other skills and gifts, the numerology and those other things that help people grab a hold of their intuition in a very symbolic and functional way in their lives, so that they can find empowerment. And I love it because, we just had that stink bug land, right? And I just recognize now that, there's a teachable moment there. There's a moment here where we can say, yeah, life is going to happen. We can't control everything that's going on around us, but it's speaking to us every moment. So yes, I'm going to look up stink bug, maybe my clients are getting more attention than I've been giving them, because the bug showed up, and it thrives on dead wood, I guess, is what I've come to understand. Anyway, I have to do some research on that. But that's how everyone can work with the world. When the world integrates energetically with us, and nature, as in the case of that little insect that came to say hello to us. I should have probably showed it to you, but but some people don't like insects. Integrated, this life we have is very integrated. There's communication happening all the time, and opportunities for lessons and opportunities to go forward. So symbology is really important, right? Tell me a little bit about, or inform the audience, if you can, a little bit about how the language of spirit works for you through symbol, through things like insects landing here for us, through working with your cards, perhaps, and even through your own inner senses that you use to connect with.
So spirit, it's so funny. There are times where I'll be like, oh, spirit's giving it to me today. And that just means that spirit's putting me through my paces. So I do use, the majority of the messages come through clairvoyantly. That's clear sight. Clairaudient is next, which is clear hearing. And then clairsentient, meaning that, we feel it, or that, it's that sensation. So, and claircognizance, there are some times that I will come into a reading, or I will see a client and just be like, okay, this is what's going on. And then when they say, how do you know? I don't know. I just know. It's just what spirit told me.
It's all there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's just all there. It's interesting because in my daily life, there are things, I guess we would call them signs, we would call them symbols. But the big thing here is that I get snagged. And what I mean by getting snagged is that my attention, it's almost as if that, I'm trying to think that I had something, yesterday. Okay. So oh gosh. So it's been quite a whirlwind at my house. But anyways, so where we live, we have well water. And what that means is we have we had to dig a well to have water. We have a pump that pumps it into the house, and the well is outside the house. And when I was parking, the well it's a good distance away, but something, spirit highlighted it. And what I mean by that is it snagged my attention. There was nothing wrong with it. There wasn't a new paint on it or anything like that. It was just something that no matter what, my attention was drawn to where that well was located. And it was so interesting because I'm like, okay, I better pay attention to this. I walked over and I found that there are some wires that are exposed that should not be. So at that point, of course, I'm like, hey, husband, guess what I saw? And this happens quite a bit where I'm like, hey, this is going on or that's going on. And he'll say, how do you know these things? Just because I'm special. But anyways, so we talk about spirit and symbols. This is how my life is, that those snags will happen. And I might not know exactly what it means in that moment, but I tuck it back and I keep almost like a record of it, of, oh, I remember that was something that drew my attention. I have to remember that. So that happens quite a bit. Oftentimes too, when I see something like that, I will ask spirit, I'll say, spirit, what do I need to know right now? Sometimes I'll see something, sometimes I'll hear it, sometimes I don't get anything. And that's kind of hard because then I'm in that free fall of, what's going to happen? When's it going to happen? So again, it's that level of trust. It's that lesson of trust. So yeah, I hope I answered that.
You sure did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
is so very important. I love that you use the word snag because I can relate to that myself. Yeah, that's a good word. It's like no matter what you're doing and have your attention on, something is pulling it with a greater intensity, and it's like, woo, pulling you off of where you were. And I always think of it as I get into the zone. I call it the zone. When that happens, I just stare at something and I don't know why I'm staring at it. I glaze over. Catch myself staring. So that's probably very similar where something pulls you. I love that. So how was your well? Was everything okay with your well?
Everything's fine. So the wires are okay. They just need to be re-encased, I guess is what we call it, re-encased in the springtime because the ground had heaved. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known. And then, boy, bad things could happen. But at this point, I was made aware of it. My husband took a look at it. It's protected. And in the springtime, we'll be able to fix it.
I love that. It's like early notification, right? It's,
yes.
It's like, pay attention. This is heading in that direction. So that's beautiful. Yeah. And they do it for so many reasons. It's not just that, it's a way to say hello sometimes, right? Yeah. So when you're using the cards and you're looking at the oracle cards, are the images, I call it jumping, are the images jumping up, snagging your attention from the cards?
Yes.
Are they,
Yes, exactly.
or are you reading the card because you know that card always means the same thing?
So it's interesting that you say that because yes, there are certain cards that have a certain meaning, and that I have I have been exposed to different readers who have always just gone with that reading, with that message in that card, and not looking deeper into it. But yes, the images on the card will jump out. So you have the basic meaning, but the cardinal, right, on certain cards, a cardinal means many things to many people. To me, it means that our loved ones or our angels are around. And when I'm looking at a card, if that cardinal jumps out, I will make that comment, or I will say that or share that with the client. And oftentimes the client will say, that's the exact sign I was hoping for today, a cardinal. Or, there are times where in other ones, I have different, of course, different cards, but there's one that the tools are highlighted, a tool like gardening tools. And in that card, it would look like, a lot of work, a lot of strife. But when I ask spirit, why are you grabbing my attention with this? It's because this person's thinking about putting in a garden in the springtime. And that's when I mention that, they say, oh yeah, well, yes, it is a little bit of hard work to start a garden or to, get it prepared. But the connection was this person was thinking about the layout of their garden, what they wanted to plant, how they wanted to do it, not the strife involved. So this is where with oracle cards, I do love that they have a broad meaning, not very much negative. If it is anything that's like, ooh, watch out, like a warning, there's always a solution or resolution that comes along with it. So when I do see those pictures, or when I see those images, those symbols, yeah, they grab my attention. It is almost as if they are glowing, or that they jump up off the card at me.
The snag.
The snag. The
jump
snag.
snag. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Now, when you're doing card work, though, sometimes I notice on your website you said sometimes spirit comes in for a visit. So when that
Yes.
happens, you hear, you're clairaudient as well, correct?
Mhm. Yes.
So tell us a little bit
Yes.
more about clairaudience experiences.
So a lot of times with clairaudience, that is when I will hear spirits, because now oftentimes I will, let me deal with this again here. Oftentimes I will tell people that whoever comes through will come through. And I know that there are people out there who want to connect in specifically with grandma. And I'll say, well, we'll see who's out there. Grandma oftentimes will at least say hello. But the clairaudience comes in and I hear their voices. First I'll hear words, then I hear their voice, and then I'll hear, if they are a funny person, I'll hear them also laughing. So there's a lot of where I can pick up a lot of, it's not, and I want to be very clear, it's not like they're reading me a letter. Instead, it'll be, snippets of words, or hearing, the high-pitched voice versus a low voice, or, an accent even sometimes will come through. So it is interesting how spirit talks to me that way. And a lot of times with spirit, the clairaudience will happen, but then also the clairvoyance will be engaged as well.
Mutually working together, right?
Yes.
They kind of come in and give you the embodiment of what's going on. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
So as you've watched mediumship over the years, have you noticed, or mediumship or the process, or even the clients for that matter, have you seen any changes or directions or patterns that this is going in for people?
So I have. So I have watched. There was a point where a lot of readings were, or a lot of spirit communication, spirit connection was more. How do I want to say? There's two things that come in. It was a little bit more general. Grandma's here. She gives you love. Hi. Okay. And people would give information, and then it was kind of the game of, can you place who this is? And we would wait on that. We would wait for the client to identify who is this grandmother instead of moving on. And over the years, over the time, I have seen that there's been more of, I think we call it British style. I have the spirit. Now you figure it out. Okay, for a group when we're doing platform work and things like that. The other part of it too, that I've noticed, is there is stronger evidential mediumship. That is something that has come really, really more to the forefront. So the evidential mediumship is where there is specific evidence. Brown, when we're describing a spirit, brown hair, curly hair. This person walked with a limp. This person didn't have a leg. This person had earrings. This person didn't have an earring. Like, these are non-negotiable facts that can be verified when we are working with that evidence. So I do see that there is more a tendency or a leniency towards that now than just the grandma's here, she loves you. the general messages. And again, that is just how mediumship has evolved, because when we look at how it began way back when, it was more physical. It was way more physical. We had more physical phenomenon going on. And over the years, and there's many theories behind it as to why we don't have as much of that now. But as spirit has made its presence known, now we have more of that mental mediumship. Now we're moving back into more of that evidence, because mental mediumship, like, I know what I'm seeing, but you don't know what I'm seeing. Okay. Evidence that's something that everybody can verify. So that is what I have seen in the process of mediumship, how readers read.
Have you had an experience of receiving more ancestors, perhaps ancestors that the clients may not have necessarily communicated with, for the evidence to give them that proof? Have you noticed that increasing?
So yeah, and it's interesting because where I live, I actually have a lot of Native Americans that I read as well. And so they always have ancestors. I mean, we always have ancestors, but their line, their culture, it's almost as if it's how do I want to say, it's just expected that all of their ancestors are going to be there. Where when we have, like a reading with you or a reading with, other people, we look at it and say, okay, well, now it's more than just grandma. Now we're dealing with great, 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 great grandpa. A lot of times too is, and I love what you say about the ancestors, because we're also dealing with, this is something that's new that's been coming in, is that where the client's feet are, meaning where they have grown up from, the land has a history. And I get a lot of that comes in. And it might not be relatives, it might not be ancestors, but it's the history of the land and how that has influenced the client and the client's family and how they have grown or how they have done what they've done. So that is something that within the last probably since October, that's been something that's been very common. So instead of me saying, okay, go back and check your family tree, I've had to say, okay, now go back and check the deed to the land or the deed to the house, because this person's in there somewhere.
That's interesting, because I'm part of a circle right now, and a lot of the people in the circle are bringing up people that were in the community of the people that are in the circle. So it's interesting you say that. These other mediums have been bringing through situations that have happened that, say, the other medium has encountered them or heard about them on the news, but that person that's coming through has this profound message and sharing they want to give. So they're teaching, they're sharing, they're providing their philosophy from their point of view in the spirit world, and they're giving it to us in the circle. And it's fascinating, because that is not something I've experienced in circles before, but also when I'm working with clients, I do get people that come from the ancestry and they have to go home and ask parents and this kind of thing. And we're often taught that that's not appropriate, because we're sitting with the client, and the client, we have to be able to answer the questions of the client. But the teachings that seem to come through from those ancestors that I've connected with, either through that other circle or in this case, where I'm working with clients individually, it's fascinating what they bring through, the knowledge, the support. It's like now you have not only a spirit guide, but you have a family guardian slash guide in spirit. Now, we've always had that, but now they're speaking. It seems like they're speaking up. That's just what I've been noticing. And so I'm delighted to hear that's happening for you as well.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too, because I don't know, I mean, we talk about enlightenment and things like that, but it does feel that, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been to a library or you've been to a class and you learned a new technique or you've learned how to use new tools. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to go share that with people. And I feel that that's what's happening with the ancestors, is that they're like, oh my goodness, I have all of this at my fingertips and I want to share. The other part of it too is, we do know that we're in challenging times, but I feel that the ancestors are also coming forward to help us step more more firmly in our path instead of getting distracted with this, that, and everything else. It's more of keep your eye on the ball. This is what you need to do before the end, so to say. And I'm not saying the world's coming to an end, so let me be very clear with that. But you know, when we have our path, you know, I mean, I don't want to get distracted and go shopping, right? I want my ancestor to tap me on the shoulder and say, let's stay focused and let's get this done so that we can be able to move on, so that this can be for your spiritual growth, for your life lesson that you need to learn, so that then you can help others. Because if we look at it, I mean, spirit is everywhere, spirit is in everything. And our path not only affects us, but it ripples out and it affects those who have come before us, those who are with us, and those who come after us. So I do believe that that is why the ancestors are speaking a little bit louder now, because a lot more of us are willing to listen.
It's a very good point. It's a three-way conversation, right? It's the medium supporting, but even if you're not having a medium and your ancestors are talking with you, there's a conversation there. There's a relationship that's starting to develop. And I would love listeners, if you go to mediums, to recognize that sometimes the message that's coming to you is for a bigger picture or from a bigger picture. It's not always like how we step into a reading and we come because we have a concern. Like when I've come to Donya, I'm like, oh, this thing's happening in my life and I need a little support, yeah, because I've thought it through and it's not working. Where am I getting in my own way? So I go to Donya and I ask her, and then Donya gives me the support from the guides, angels, teachers, and implications that she picks up psychically. So it's a wonderful exchange where they're there to help you. I would like to get the message out to everyone that it's not just the people you think are looking out for you that are looking out for you. Because I find, so many people will have that message and it'll be somebody they weren't close with, and I'll be bringing them through and they'll say, well, I didn't know them very well. Yes, but somehow they had a perspective of you and knowledge of you. Maybe you don't remember because you were so young, right? You didn't retain that information, but they retained it and they want to share with you. And I think opening our hearts to what resonates as good for us, or as a potential to help us empower ourselves, as you like to do for your clients, as I like to do, to bring illumination to the information that's going to keep us aligned with what is, we often say, highest and best. What is in our highest interest and is the best for all beings, not just ourselves, but for everyone. So yeah, so it's interesting. I'm pleased to hear that you're allowing for the expansion of that, and to allow that information to come through in support of others as well. That sometimes we're trained to do it this way, right? This is what you do. These are the steps you take. That we're being flexible. That we're listening, and the key to listening, as you said earlier, is trust. Trusting spirit. Spirit is bringing what is necessary in the dynamic and the energy exchange of the moment. And the more our hearts are open, the more we're able to receive that as clients, and the more we're able to give that as mediums. So beautiful. Yeah. Anything else that you've been discovering lately about doing this work that you'd like to share with everyone?
To be honest, I really feel that the more I do this, the more I love it. The more and again, I sound kind of selfish on this. I think it's like, oh, it's the more I find this is where I belong. To be honest, I really feel that the more that I'm doing this, the more that we're getting the message. I say we, because we're all a team. We get this message out to others about trusting, listening to spirit, trusting our heart. That helps us to just live an easier life. We're not banging our heads against the wall so much. I really feel that's it. And to be honest, life was never meant to be stressful. It really wasn't. It was meant that, yes, we're in the physical, we're in the flesh, but we have helpers, we have guides all around us. All we have to do is just slow down, connect, and ask, and they will help us 100%.
So from this day forward and the year ahead, today is a new moon. Woohoo! So we have this fresh start for people if they're listening in the next couple days. So as we go forward, Donya, using that piece of advice, can you suggest ways that we integrate that into our day?
Yes. Every day, breathe. Oh my goodness. Set a timer so that you can take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, you give gratitude for being able to walk, being able to talk, being able to do what it is that you do. I do believe that the attitude of gratitude is what helps us to connect as well to spirit, to our best life. The other part too, I want to say, it's so funny because I'm actually being shown by spirit, is we need to get outside. We need to have that fresh air. I know the weather sometimes is a little tricky, but there are days that it's beautiful. Get outside, get that fresh air, do grounding with your bare feet. I think we call it forest bathing as well. Getting back to nature is something that is so important because the technology is great. It serves a purpose, but it was never meant to be in front of our face 24/7. And that is something that as humans, we have to remember, all right, let's put that down and go back outside and do what has always been intended of us.
You mentioned the forest bathing, and I'm thinking of air breathing in. What about essential oils? I know that's something that we used to invest in, and I just about forgot to bring that up. So, do you have any thoughts about that in terms of
I
helping us get into
do.
the stressed, kind of calm, receptive, loving state?
Definitely. Oh my goodness. I love essential oils. I'll tell you, it was so funny because before our interview, I kind of drank my clary sage. Now, not that I really drank it, but I did put it on to help calm
Do
me
not do
down.
this at home. Yeah.
Don't drink essential oils. It doesn't taste good. Anyways, so yes, we can use lavender to help us relax. With when we want to do a little bit of that spring cleaning, even if we have a day that maybe we're waking up and we're a little grumpy, we can use lemon essential oil because that's liquid sunshine, right? Helps us to just feel a little bit better. We can also put, some of that little peppermint essential oil. Maybe we smell it to help us wake up a little bit. We put a few drops in our coffee, whatever. Definitely essential oils, I really believe are kind of that hidden medicine. I mean, I know that I've used it for migraines. I've used it for body aches. It's just different ones, and it's one where, yeah, essential oils are absolutely perfect. My kids, when they are not feeling well, it's mom, I have a sore throat. Can I have some peppermint? Mom, can I have some lavender? My muscles feel a little tight. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and always, when we use this stuff, just as a disclaimer, know that, neither Donya or I are aromatherapists or doctors.
Right.
These are tools. These are things that we use. We always try to get the best quality, and that was a joke earlier about the drinking of
Yeah.
the um,
Don't drink it.
no, but we smell flowers and they make us
Mhm.
just want to come to our center. So, how you set up your environment, whether it be, lighting or color or fresh air or the using the oils, uplifting scents, having plants,
Mhm.
to clear the fields and clear the energy and have a life force, a light within your space. These are all really important parts of us living our lives well. And the more we do that for ourselves, the more we're going to be able to connect with the deeper parts of ourselves, the subtler parts of ourselves. The more we'll be able to listen, the more we'll be able to connect with spirit if we're mediums or healers, the more we'll be in that flow because we're taking care of this vessel, our body. So whenever we do any of these things, and always check with your family doctor that it's good for you, try it out on yourself, make your own decisions as well, balance that out because there are experts that you would want to go to. Like I said earlier, refer out, right? There are people that
Mhm.
know more about some things than others, and we are all responsible for ourselves, and we have that free will. Donya, I did want to ask you one thing about free will. um, how do you understand free will? I mean, everybody has a different take, I've been finding, on how free will is in the world, and freedom, even the word freedom, liberation. Like, how does that all work for you in your understanding as a medium and psychic and a social worker for that matter?
So yeah, there's a lot of different things here. So
Well said.
free will,
Impact.
yeah, it is. I'm just like, oh no, free will. So in social work, we call it self-determination. Free will is self-determination. Somebody can come to me and say, I need help with this and this and this. Can you connect me with this resource? And I can hand them the phone number and I can say, this will help you. But self-determination, it's up to them to make that phone call. So when we have free will, it's kind of, to me, my understanding of it is sort of the same thing. Spirit will guide us. We are given the information. Do this. This will help you. This will encourage you. This will fortify you. But if I stand here and say, I don't want to, then that's my free will to make that human decision, almost in the ego, and whatever happens is on me, is my consequence. Now, again, we're not talking about good, bad, you know, evil, good, all that stuff. Instead, it's more of that's my understanding that if you're given the food in front of you and you refuse to eat it and then you complain that you're hungry, that's your own free will. Because spirit,
the result of your action and choice give you exactly what you chose and are in correlation with that. So that's a lot like the natural law, right? The law of correspondence, the law of attraction, they all factor in together and in the story, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic to unravel. The universal law, natural law aspect of things. But yeah, so free will, great. Thank you for that description and your orientation on that. Appreciate it. Well, very good. I am delighted that you were able to join us today, and thank you for those tidbits and advice, pieces of information for going forward. I'm really grateful you're here. I'm grateful for you as a friend, and I want to let people know how to get a hold of you. So if they check out your website, go to https://charger174.wixsite, wixsite.com/sensational life. Well worth the visit. You've got a freebie you can get there. Donya has a whole bunch of information there. She's got a couple things to say about angels that if you're interested in, there's more information there. And you can certainly contact her. Donya, do you have an email you want me to put in here as well today?
Oh, sure. My email is charger174@yahoo.com.
Okay. And I have a question to close on. Charger174. Is there a significant story behind that for people to help them remember?
There is. So when I was, oh my goodness, early before I learned how to walk, I would crawl. And my mom always, because I wouldn't crawl slowly, I crawled very fast. And my mom would call me Charger. And at the time that I wanted to have this email address, the house number was 174. And that house was my big Victorian house that I absolutely loved. I don't live there anymore. I moved out into the country. Oh my goodness. So it's a fond memory of what my mom would call me, but then it's also a beautiful fond memory of the wonderful house that I lived in that was my refuge and my sanctuary all at the same time.
Well, thank you, Charger, for joining us and telling us that story. I was Chatty Cathy. I think we all get our nicknames, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
thank you.
Folks, thank you for being here with Donya and I today. And do join us again, and be well in the meantime. Enjoy the beginning of this new year and stay focused. Love you all.
Thanks.